Welcome back to our quiet corner of the internet. If you've found a home here for your nightly rest, a place to unwind, and let your mind wander, consider subscribing so you never lose your way back to this peaceful space. Tonight, we embark on a journey of transformation, a story of humble grains of sand becoming something extraordinary, something we see and use every single day. We're discovering the hidden chemistry of how sand transforms into glass. It's a kind of everyday magic, isn't it? We look through windows, sip from glasses, and marvel at intricate glass art. But rarely do we pause to think about its origin. It all begins with something incredibly simple and abundant. Sand. But not just any sand you'd find on a beach vacation. The star of our story is silica sand. This special type of sand is almost entirely made of silicon dioxide, or silica, which is the fundamental building block of glass. Imagine countless tiny, crystalline structures, each a molecule of silicon and oxygen, lying dormant, waiting for the right kind of energy to awaken their potential. The transformation from opaque sand to transparent glass is a dance of intense heat and chemical reactions. The first and most crucial step is to heat the silica sand to an astonishing temperature. We're talking about 1,700 degrees Celsius, or over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than volcanic lava. At this extreme temperature, the rigid, crystalline structure of the silica breaks down. The strong bonds holding the molecules in their orderly pattern are overcome, and the sand melts, transforming into a thick, glowing, molten liquid. It's like watching a solid mountain of ice melt into a river, but on a molecular level, and at a temperature that could melt steel. However, reaching 1,700 degrees Celsius requires a massive amount of energy, making it a very expensive process. This is where a little bit of chemistry comes in to make things more efficient. To help the sand melt more easily, glassmakers add a substance called soda ash, or sodium carbonate. Soda ash acts as a flux, which is a fancy way of saying it lowers the melting point of the silica. With soda ash mixed in, the sand can melt at a more manageable temperature, saving a significant amount of energy and making large-scale glass production possible. It's a clever trick, using one chemical to persuade another to change its state with less effort. But there's a small problem. Glass made from only silica and soda ash is quite soft and, surprisingly, it can dissolve in water over time. It wouldn't be very useful for windows or drinking glasses, would it? 2 solbit teas. A third key ingredient is added to the mix. Limestone, which is primarily calcium carbonate. Limestone acts as a stabilizer. When heated, it introduces calcium oxide into the molten mixture. This new ingredient makes the final glass much stronger, more durable, and resistant to the effects of water. It's the final touch that turns our fragile concoction into the robust and reliable material we know and love. So, we have our 3 main characters. Silica sand, T-mine body. Soda ash, the helper that lowers the heat. And limestone, the guardian that provides strength and stability. These ingredients are carefully measured and mixed together into what is called a batch. This batch is then fed into a massive furnace, where it undergoes its fiery transformation. Inside the furnace, it becomes a glowing, honey-like liquid, a sea of molten glass ready to be shaped. Now, how do we get from this molten sea to the perfectly flat, smooth sheets of glass used for our windows? The most common method used today is an ingenious process known as the float glass process. It was a revolutionary invention that changed the glass industry forever. In T's method, the molten glass is poured from the furnace onto a large, shallow bath of molten tin. Yes, molten metal. Because glass is less dense than tin, it floats on top, just like oil floats on water. As the ribbon of molten glass spreads across the perfectly flat surface of the molten tin, gravity and surface tension work their magic. They pull the glass into a sheet of uniform thickness and incredible smoothness. There's no need for grinding or polishing. It's a beautifully simple and elegant solution to create flawless sheets of glass. The ribbon of glass then slowly moves along the tin bath, gradually cooling as it goes. It enters a special cooling chamber called an annealing layer. This cooling process is just as critical as the heating. If the glass were too cool too quickly, stresses would build up within it, making it brittle and likely to shatter. Annealing is the process of cooling the glass very slowly and in a controlled manner. This allows the internal structure of the glass to relax and settle, removing any internal stresses. It's a bit like a person taking slow, deep breaths to calm down after an intense experience. This slow cooling ensures the glass is strong and stable. As the glass cools, something fascinating happens on a molecular level. Unlike the original sand, which had a very orderly, crystalline structure, the molecules in glass don't have time to return to that neat arrangement. Instead, they get frozen in a random, disordered state as the material solidifies. This unique structure is what defines glass as an amorphous solid. It's a special state of matter, exhibiting properties of both solids and liquids. It's rigid like a solid, but its molecules are jumbled like in a liquid. This amorphous structure is what allows light to pass through it so easily, giving glass its signature transparency. And there you have it, from humble grains of silica sand through the inferno of the furnace, with the help of soda ash and limestone, floating on a bed of molten tin, and finally cooling into a state of beautiful, chaotic order. The journey is complete. The opaque and granular has become the transparent and smooth. The opaque and granular has become the transparent and smooth. It is a testament to human ingenuity and our ability to understand and manipulate the very building blocks of the world around us. Have you ever looked through a window and wondered how that perfectly clear, solid sheet of glass came from something as simple as sand? It's a question that blends ancient alchemy with modern science. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the incredible journey of glass, from a grainy handful of sand to the shimmering, transparent material that shapes our world in countless ways. This isn't just about melting sand. It's a story of chemistry, innovation, and a material that has been with us for thousands of years. It continues to push the boundaries of technology. So, let's start at the very beginning with our star ingredient, silica sand. Now, this isn't just any sand you'd find on the beach. To make high-quality glass, you need sand that is almost pure silicon dioxide, or silica. We're talking about 95% purity, or mori. This special sand is the backbone of glass, providing its fundamental structure. But sand alone won't melt easily. Its melting point is incredibly high, over 1700 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than volcanic lava? To make the process more manageable and energy efficient, glassmakers add other substances called flux. The most common flux is soda ash, or sodium carbonate. Think of it as a chemical matchmaker. It lowers the melting temperature of the silica to a much more achievable 1000 degrees or so. Another key ingredient is limestone, which is calcium carbonate. While soda ash helps the sand melt, it unfortunately makes the resulting glass soluble in water. Imagine your windows dissolving in the rain. That's where limestone comes in. It acts as a stabilizer, making the final glass durable and resistant to water. So, the basic recipe for the most common type of glass, called soda-lime glass, is silica sand, soda ash, and limestone. It's a chemical recipe perfected over centuries. These raw materials are carefully measured and mixed together. But there's one more crucial component we need to talk about: cullet. Cullet is just the industry term for recycled glass. It's not just about being eco-friendly, although that's a huge benefit. Adding cullet to the mix is also incredibly practical. Recycled glass melts at a lower temperature than the raw materials, which means the furnace doesn't have to work as hard. This saves a massive amount of energy, reduces carbon emissions, and even extends the life of the furnace. In fact, for every ton of cullet used, we save over a ton of raw materials. It's a win-win for both the environment and the manufacturers. Once our mixture of sand, soda, ash, limestone, and cullet is ready, it's fed into a massive furnace. These furnaces are industrial behemoths, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, sometimes for more than a decade without being shut down. Inside, temperatures soar to around 1500 degrees Celsius, transforming the solid granular mix into a glowing, molten, honey-like liquid. It's a mesmerizing, fiery soup of liquid glass. During this stage, the mixture is constantly stirred to ensure all the ingredients are fully dissolved and to remove any bubbles, a process called fining. Any imperfections or bubbles at this stage would be trapped in the final product. So getting a perfectly uniform, clear melt is absolutely critical. Now that we have this vat of molten glass, how do we turn it into the large, perfectly flat sheets we use for windows and screens? This is where a truly ingenious piece of modern engineering comes into play. The float glass process. Invented by Sir Alistair Pilkington in the 1950s. This method revolutionized the glass industry. Before the float process, making large, distortion-free sheets of glass was incredibly difficult, expensive, and labor-intensive. Pilkington's idea was both simple and brilliant. Here's how it works. The molten glass, at a temperature of about 1100 degrees Celsius, flows out of the furnace and onto a shallow bath of molten tin. Why tin? Because tin has a very high density and a perfectly flat surface when molten. The glass, being less dense, floats on top of the tin, spreading out to form a ribbon of uniform thickness and perfectly parallel surfaces. It's a bit like pouring oil onto water. The oil naturally spreads out into a smooth, even layer. Gravity pulls the top surface flat, while the molten tin provides a perfectly flat base. It's a self-leveling process that creates glass with a flawless finish, eliminating the need for costly grinding and polishing. As this ribbon of glass floats along the tin bath, which can be over 50 meters long, it is slowly and carefully cooled. The temperature is gradually reduced from around 1100 degrees down to 600 degrees Celsius. This controlled cooling is called, and it's a crucial step that relieves internal stresses within the glass. If you cooled the glass too quickly, the outside would solidify while the inside was still molten. This would create immense internal tension, making the glass extremely fragile and liable to shatter at the slightest touch. The annealing process ensures the entire sheet of glass cools uniformly, making it strong and stable. Once the glass ribbon is solid enough, it is lifted off the tin bath by rollers and enters a long cooling chamber called an annealing layer. Here, the cooling process continues under computer control for several hundred meters until the glass reaches room temperature. Finally, at the end of the line, advanced sensors scan the glass for any imperfections. Lasers detect even the tiniest flaw, and then automated cutters slice the continuous ribbon into large sheets, which are then cut to standard or custom sizes, ready for shipping. A single float glass plant can produce an astonishing 6,000 kilometers of glass per year. But what if you don't want clear glass? What about the beautiful stained glass in cathedrals, or the colored bottles we see every day? This is where the chemistry gets even more artistic. By adding tiny amounts of different metal oxides to the molten glass mixture, we can create a whole spectrum of colors. For example, adding iron oxide can produce green or brown glasses. Is why some cheaper glass has a greenish tint from iron impurities in the sand. A small amount of cobalt oxide creates a deep, rich blue. Gold chloride, though expensive, produces a stunning ruby red color, while selenium can create reds and pinks. It is amazing to think that just a pinch of a specific metal can completely transform the appearance of the final product. Beyond color, additives can also change other properties of glass. Adding boron oxide creates borosilicate glass, which you might know by brand names like pipe. This type of glass has a very low coefficient of thermal expansion, meaning it won't crack when subjected to sudden temperature changes. That is why it is perfect for laboratory equipment and kitchen bakeware that goes from a hot oven to a cool countertop. Another example is adding lead oxide, which creates lead crystal. This increases the glass's refractive index, making it sparkle more brilliantly as it bends light, which is why it's prized for decorative glassware. The versatility of glass is truly mind-boggling. From ancient Egyptians using it to create simple beads and vessels, to Romans perfecting glassblowing, this material has been a constant companion in human history. It gave us the lenses that allowed us to see the stars and the microbes, fundamentally changing our understanding of the universe and ourselves. Today, it's at the heart of modern technology. The screen you're watching this on is made of highly specialized, strengthened glass. Fiber optic cables, which are threads of ultrapure glass, form the backbone of the internet, transmitting data as pulses of light across continents. Architects use advanced coated glass to create energy-efficient buildings that control heat and light. From a simple grain of sand to the screen in your hand, the journey of glass is a testament to human ingenuity. It's a material that is both ancient and futuristic, simple in its composition, but complex in its creation. Its unique combination of transparency, strength, moldability, and durability ensures that it will continue to be an essential and transformative material for centuries to come. The next time you gaze through a window or sip from a glass, take a moment to appreciate the incredible science and history packed into that seemingly simple object. It's a little piece of manufactured magic, born from the fiery heart of a furnace. Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible material that shapes our modern world? It's all around us, in the screens we touch, the windows we look through, and even the buildings that define our cities. I'm talking about glass, but the story of glass doesn't start in a factory. It begins with something much more humble: sand. Specifically, silica. Sand. This isn't just any sand you'd find on a beach. It's a special, high-purity sand that forms the very soul of the glass we use every day. Join me as we explore the silent symphony of sand and uncover how this simple grain transforms into the transparent backbone of our civilization. So, what makes silica sand so special? It all comes down to purity. Glass production is a bit like baking a cake. You need the right ingredients in the right proportions. The main ingredient, making up about 70% of the mixture, is silica, or silicon dioxide. The higher the purity of this silica, the better the glass. High-quality silica sand is prized because it contains very few impurities, like iron oxide. Why does that matter? Well, iron is what gives lower-quality glass that slight greenish tint you might see in cheap bottles. For the crystal-clear glass needed for skyscraper windows or your smartphone screen, you need sand that's as close to pure silica as possible. This purity is what gives glass its strength, clarity, and the amazing properties we rely on. Let's take a journey into the fiery heart of a glass factory. The process starts by mixing silica sand with a few other key ingredients. Soda ash is added to lower the melting point of the sand, which saves a massive amount of energy. Lime, or calcium carbonate, is also mixed in to make the resulting glass more stable and durable, preventing it from dissolving in water. This mixture, known as the batch, is then fed into a furnace heated to an incredible temperature, around 1,700 degrees Celsius. Inside this inferno, the solid grains of sand melt and fuse, transforming into a molten, glowing liquid that looks like lava. It's a magical, alchemical process, turning humble sand into a versatile new substance. Once the glass is molten, the real artistry begins. Depending on the final product, this glowing liquid can be shaped in various ways. For flat glass, like the kind used in windows and mirrors, the molten glass is often floated on a bed of molten tin. This is called the float glass process, and it creates perfectly smooth, uniform sheets of glass with amazing precision. For containers like bottles and jars, a different method is used. A precise amount of molten glass, called a gob, is dropped into a mold and then either pressed or blown into shape using compressed air. It's a high-speed, highly automated process that can produce thousands of identical bottles every hour. Each method is a testament to human ingenuity, perfecting techniques over centuries to create the vast array of glass products we see today. Now, look around you. How much glass can you see? Your phone screen, your television, the light bulbs illuminating the room, the windows framing your view of the world. Glass is truly one of the most critical materials in modern life. In electronics, it's not just a protective layer. Specially formulated glass, like Gorilla Glass, is incredibly tough and scratch-resistant, making our devices durable enough for daily use. The tiny, intricate glass components within fiber optic cables are what allow for high-speed internet, carrying information as pulses of light across continents. Without glass, our digital world would simply not exist as we know it. The impact of glass on architecture is just as profound. Modern architecture is defined by its use of glass. Think of the breathtaking glass pyramids at the Louvre or the towering, all-glass skyscrapers that dominate city skylines. Architectural glass isn't just about aesthetics, it's about performance. Advanced glass coatings can reflect heat, keeping buildings cool in the summer and warm in the winter, which dramatically improves energy efficiency. Laminated and tempered glass provide safety and security, making large glass structures feasible and safe for public use. Glass allows us to build structures that are filled with natural light, connecting us to the outside world while protecting us from the elements. It's a material that blends beauty with function seamlessly. But what happens to all this glass when it's no longer needed? This is where the story takes a fascinating and sustainable turn. Glass is 100% recyclable, and it can be recycled endlessly without any loss in quality or purity. When you toss a glass bottle into the recycling bin, you're participating in a circular economy. The old glass, known as cullet, is collected, crushed, and cleaned. This cullet is then added to the raw materials in the furnace. Using recycled glass is a huge win for the environment. It significantly reduces the energy required to make new glass, because cullet melts at a lower temperature than raw sand. It also conserves natural resources, as every ton of glass recycled saves over a ton of sand, soda, ash, and limestone. Recycling glass doesn't just stop at making new bottles. The innovation continues. When glass is crushed into a fine, sand-like material, it can be used in some surprising ways. This glass sand is being explored as a component in construction materials like asphalt and concrete. But one of its most exciting uses is in environmental restoration. Recycled glass sand, because it's sterile and has excellent drainage properties, can be mixed with compost to create a high-quality soil amendment. It helps aerate the soil, which supports healthy plant growth. It's even being used to help restore eroded beaches in some areas. It is a beautiful example of how waste can be transformed into a resource that benefits the planet. Let's circle back to the source, the silica sand itself. The quality of that initial sand has a direct impact on the final product. For high-tech applications, the standards are incredibly strict. The glass used for telescope lenses, for example, must be flawlessly clear and free of any imperfections to provide a crisp view of the cosmos. Similarly, the glass used in laboratory equipment needs to be highly resistant to chemical corrosion and thermal shock. This requires silica of the highest purity. The strength and clarity of the glass in a car's windshield, which is a critical safety feature, is also directly linked to the quality of the raw materials. Understanding this connection highlights just how important responsible sourcing and processing of silica sand are for the entire industry. The role of glass extends into almost every industry you can think of. In the automotive world, it's not just about windshields. Modern cars use glass in mirrors, light covers, and increasingly, in digital dashboards and heads-up displays. In the medical field, glass vials and syringes are essential for storing and administering medicines safely, because glass is inert and doesn't react with its contents. The food and beverage industry relies on glass to preserve the taste and freshness of products without leaching harmful chemicals. From the robust glass in a deep-sea submersible SV port to the delicate fibers in a piece of clothing, glass is a hidden champion, performing vital functions behind the scenes. One of the most exciting frontiers for glass is in the field of renewable energy. Glass is a cornerstone of solar technology. The photovoltaic panels that convert sunlight into electricity are protected by a layer of highly transparent, durable glass. This glass has to withstand decades of exposure to harsh weather while allowing the maximum amount of sunlight to reach the solar cells. Concentrated solar power plants use vast fields of mirrors, which are made of glass, to focus sunlight onto a central tower, generating immense heat to produce steam and drive turbines. Even wind turbines use glass, in the form of fiberglass composites, to create their strong, lightweight blades. As we push for a more sustainable future, glass is proving to be an indispensable ally. So, the next time you look through a window, sip from a glass bottle, or swipe across your phone screen, take a moment to appreciate the journey of that material. It started as simple grains of sand, forged in the intense heat of a furnace, and meticulously shaped to serve a purpose in your life. The story of glass is a story of transformation, innovation, and human ingenuity. It's a silent symphony that plays out all around us, connecting the natural world of sand and minerals to the technological marvels of our modern age. It's a material that's both ancient and futuristic, constantly being reinvented to meet new challenges. And it all begins with sand. Have you ever stood inside a magnificent old cathedral, looked up at the stunning stained glass windows, and heard the story that the glass is thicker at the bottom because it has slowly flowed downwards over the centuries? It's a romantic idea, isn't it? The thought of solid glass moving like a super slow river of color bought. Is it true? Today, we are going to shatter this popular myth and uncover the real secrets behind the beautiful imperfections of medieval glass. Let's get one thing straight right away. Glass is a solid, an amorphous solid to be precise. At room temperature, it doesn't flow. For a pane of glass to sag even a tiny bit under its own weight, it would take longer than the age of the universe itself. So, if the glass isn't flowing, why are so many old cathedral windows thicker at the bottom? The answer lies not in physics over centuries, but in the craftsmanship of the medieval artisans who made them. The golden age of stained glass was during the 12th and 13th centuries. Back then, glassmaking was far from the uniform, automated process we have today. It was a true art form, filled with hands-on techniques that naturally led to variations. Two main methods were used: the crown glass method and the cylinder glass method. Let's start with the cylinder method. A glass blower would create a large, hollow glass cylinder. While the glass was still hot and malleable, the ends of the cylinder were cut off, and it was sliced open down its length. Then, it was flattened out in an oven to create a sheet. You can imagine, this process wasn't perfect. The reheating and flattening often resulted in a sheet that wasn't perfectly even. Some parts were naturally thicker or thinner than others. The other technique was the crown glass method. This one is even more fascinating. A blob of molten glass was gathered on a blowpipe, and the blower would create a hollow sphere. The side opposite the pipe was then opened up, and the whole thing was transferred to a solid rod called a pontil. The glass was then reheated and spun rapidly. Centrifugal force would cause the sphere to flatten out into a large, circular disc, kind of like a giant pizza base. This disc was called a crown. When it cooled, the crown would be cut into smaller panes. But think about the physics of spinning it. The center of the disc, where the pontil was attached, would batik and have a distinctive lump, called a bullseye, or bullion. The glass would get progressively thinner as you move towards the outer edge. So, when these circular crowns were cut into rectangular panes, you would get pieces with all sorts of thickness variations. Some pieces from the edge would be very thin, while those from closer to the center would be much thicker on one side. So now we have these imperfect, uneven panes of glass. What does a master glazier do? When it came time to assemble the window, these craftsmen weren't just slapping pieces into place. They were engineers in their own right. They knew that putting the thickest and heaviest part of the glass at the bottom of each panel would make the entire window structure more stable. It was a simple, practical decision. It provided a stronger base for the pieces above it and ensured the lead came the strips that hold the glass together could better support the weight. So, the next time you see a medieval window with thicker glass at the bottom, you're not seeing evidence of glass flowing over time. You're seeing the clever handiwork of a medieval glazier making a very sensible choice. The variations in thickness are a beautiful, tangible connection to the past, a signature of the handmade process. But the story of these windows goes far beyond their physical construction. They weren't just decorative, they were the storybooks of their time. In an era when most people were illiterate, stained glass windows were a powerful tool for education and inspiration. They depicted vivid scenes from the Bible, the lives of saints, and moral allegories. These weren't just random pictures, they were carefully designed narratives. The structure of the storytelling was often very specific. Just like reading a book, there was a correct way to read a window. Typically, the narrative begins at the bottom of the window and moves upwards, with each panel or section representing a new part of the story. And just like we read from left to right, the scenes within each horizontal level were often arranged to be read from left to right as well. This structure allowed the clergy to guide the congregation through the gospel stories, panel by panel, turning the entire church into a vast, illuminated manuscript. Let's take a look at the artistry itself. The craftsmanship of stained glass reflects the deep symbolism and fascination with geometry that was central to medieval thought. Shapes were not arbitrary. Circles often represented eternity or God, while squares represented the earthly realm. The intricate patterns of the lead cane itself formed a kind of skeleton, a framework that was just as important as the colored glass it held. The artists were masters of composition, using color and light to evoke emotion and draw the eye to the most important parts of the story. The colors themselves were also highly symbolic. Blue, a difficult and expensive color to produce, was often associated with heaven and divinity, famously used for the Virgin Mary's robes. Red could symbolize the blood of Christ or the fires of hell, while green represented new life and hope. The combination of these colors, illuminated by the sun, was meant to create a transcendent, heavenly atmosphere inside the cathedral, lifting the spirit of the worshipper from the mundane world to a divine one. These windows were incredible feats of collaborative effort. The process involved a patron who commissioned the work, a master designer who created the initial drawing or cartoon, glassmakers who created the colored sheets, glazers who cut the glass to shape, and painters who added fine details like faces and fabric folds with a special enamel paint that was then fired onto the glass. Finally, all the pieces were painstakingly assembled with lead cames, soldered at the joints, and whether it was a monumental undertaking. So, the mystery of the thicker glass is solved. It's a testament to the hands-on creation process and the practical wisdom of medieval builders. But this simple question opens up a whole world of history, art, and faith. These windows are not passive objects. They are dynamic storytellers, theological documents, and masterpieces of craftsmanship that have been speaking to people for nearly 1,000 years. The fact that these fragile works of art have survived wars, revolutions, and the ravages of time is a miracle in itself. They stand as a powerful reminder of a time when art and engineering came together in service of a shared belief, creating spaces that were designed to awe and inspire. The subtle variations in the glass, the very flaws that gave rise to the myth of flowing glass, are actually the marks of their authenticity. They connect us directly to the hands of the people who made them centuries ago. So the next time you visit an old church or cathedral, go and look closely at the windows. See if you can spot the variations in thickness. Try to read the stories they tell, from bottom to top. Appreciate the vibrant colors and the intricate lead work. You're not just looking at old glass, you're looking at a window into the medieval mind, a masterpiece of art and a triumph of human ingenuity. The truth is always more fascinating than the myth. Have you ever wished you could instantly make your windows go from crystal clear to completely private with just the flick of a switch? It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But this technology is real, and it's completely revolutionizing the way we think about our living and working spaces. Today, we're diving deep into the world of smart glass, a game-changing innovation that's reshaping modern architecture and design. Stick around, because you're about to see how this incredible technology can transform any space into a high-tech haven. So, what exactly is smart glass? Also known as switchable glass or dynamic glass. It's a type of glass that can change its light transmission properties when voltage, light, or heat is applied. In its most common form, a simple electrical current can turn the glass from transparent to opaque and back again in less than a second. Imagine your office meeting room. One moment, it's an open, collaborative space with clear glass walls. The next, with the press of a button, it becomes a private, confidential area for a sensitive discussion. This is the power of smart glass, unlocking instant privacy on demand. Let's talk about one of its most compelling uses: privacy. In our increasingly connected world, finding a personal sanctuary can be a challenge. Traditional solutions like blinds or curtains work, but they block your view and natural light, making a room feel smaller and darker. Smart glass offers the perfect solution. You can enjoy an unobstructed, panoramic view. And when you need a moment of seclusion, simply switch the glass to its frosted state. It's ideal for bathrooms, bedrooms, and street-facing windows, giving you total control over your environment without sacrificing sunlight or style. You can literally watch your window transform before your eyes, offering a sense of magic and complete control. But the applications go far beyond just your home. Think about the modern workplace. Open-plan offices are great for fostering collaboration, but they often lack private spaces for focused work or confidential meetings. Instead of building solid, view-blocking walls, architects are now integrating smart glass partitions. This allows for a dynamic and flexible office layout. A large open area can be instantly divided into smaller, private meeting pods, and then just as quickly return to an open concept space. It's about making spaces work for people, not the other way around. This adaptability is key in today's fast-paced business world, where needs can change from one hour to the next. Let's explore another critical application: security. Smart glass is not just about aesthetics and privacy. It's also a powerful security tool. For schools, government buildings, and corporate headquarters, security is a top priority. In an emergency situation, smart glass can be switched to opaque mode instantly, obscuring the view from the outside and protecting the occupants within. This can provide crucial seconds for people to find safety and can deter potential threats by removing their line of sight. When integrated with a building's security system, it can automatically activate during a lockdown, creating a safer environment for everyone. It adds a layer of intelligent, responsive protection that traditional windows simply can't offer. Now, let's get into one of my favorite aspects: energy efficiency. We all want to reduce our carbon footprint and save on energy bills, right? Windows are a major source of heat gain in the summer and heat loss in the winter. Smart glass can be engineered to control the amount of light and solar heat that enters a building. In its tinted or opaque state, it can block up to 99% of UV rays and significantly reduce infrared radiation. This means less reliance on air conditioning during hot summer months, leading to substantial energy savings. It helps maintain a comfortable indoor temperature year-round, while still allowing you to enjoy the benefits of natural light. It has a truly sustainable solution that is as good for your wallet as it is for the planet. One of the biggest questions people have is about control. How do you actually operate it? Well, the future is here, and it's incredibly user-friendly. Most smart glass systems can be controlled in a variety of convenient ways. You can use a simple wall switch, a dedicated remote control, or even integrate it into your smart home system. Imagine saying, "Hey Google, make the living room windows private," and watching it happen. You can also automate it. For example, you can program the glass to tint during the sunniest parts of the day to reduce glare on your TV screen, or to become opaque at night for privacy. This level of seamless control is what makes smart glass a cornerstone of modern home automation. From a design perspective, smart glass is an architect's dream. Its versatility is unparalleled. It complements a wide range of design styles, from sleek, ultra-modern minimalism to warm, luxurious aesthetics. Because there's no need for bulky curtains or blinds, it creates a clean, uncluttered look that enhances the sense of space and light. The glass itself can even be used as a high-definition projection screen when in its opaque state. Imagine turning your glass wall into a home cinema or a dynamic presentation board in an office. It's not just a window. It's a multifunctional design element that adds a wow factor to any project. It's about creating spaces that are not just beautiful, but also intelligent and responsive. Let's look at some real-world examples that will blow your mind. In the hospitality industry, luxury hotels are using smart glass in guest rooms to separate the bedroom from the bathroom. This creates a feeling of a larger, more open suite, but guests can instantly have privacy when they need it. In retail, storefronts are using switchable glass to create dramatic product reveals, switching from opaque to clear to unveil a new collection. And in healthcare, smart glass is being used in patient rooms and operating theaters to maintain a sterile environment, as it's much easier to clean than curtains and eliminates places for germs to hide. It offers a hygienic, modern solution that also enhances patient privacy and dignity. The technology behind smart glass is also constantly evolving. We're seeing new innovations like self-tinting glass that automatically responds to the intensity of sunlight without needing any electrical input. Researchers are also developing smart glass that can generate electricity, essentially turning an entire building's facade into a giant, transparent solar panel. The possibilities are truly endless. We're moving from a world of static, passive building materials to a future of dynamic, interactive environments that adapt to our needs and the world around us. This isn't just a trend, it's the future of architecture and design. So, why do you need smart glass in your life? Whether you're renovating your home, designing a new office, or simply looking for a way to elevate your space with cutting-edge technology, smart glass offers a unique combination of style, functionality, and efficiency. It gives you the power to transform your environment with a touch of a button, offering instant privacy, enhanced security, and greater energy savings. It's an investment in a smarter, more comfortable, and more dynamic way of living. It's about taking control of your space and making it truly work for you. From windows to wonders, the magic of smart glass technology is undeniable. It's changing our homes, our workplaces, and our public spaces for the better. We've seen how it can deliver privacy on demand, bolster security, save energy, and open up a world of new design possibilities. The future is clear, and it's made of smart glass. Have you ever held a piece of glass so beautiful it felt like magic? Chances are, it might have been Murano glass. For over 700 years, a small island in the Venetian lagoon has been the world's capital of artistic glass, a place where fire, sand, and human breath are transformed into breathtaking works of art. But this isn't just about pretty objects. It's a story of incredible skill, fierce rivalry, and closely guarded secrets passed down through generations. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the enigmatic world of Murano glass. Our story begins in 1291. The Republic of Venice was a global powerhouse, and its glassmakers were renowned. But their furnaces were a constant fire hazard in a city built of wood. So, the Venetian government made a drastic decision. All glass furnaces were to be moved to the nearby island of Murano. This move wasn't just for safety. It was a masterstroke of industrial control. By concentrating all the artisans in one place, Venice could protect its most valuable trade secret, the art of making crystal clear glass, or cristallo life on Murano. Was a paradox. The glassmakers, the mastery, were treated like nobility. They were forbidden from leaving the Venetian Republic without permission, but they also enjoyed immense privilege. They could marry into noble families and were immune from prosecution by the state. Why? Because their skills were priceless. The secrets they held were the key to Venice's economic dominance. If a maestro tried to escape and take his knowledge elsewhere, he risked being hunted down by assassins. The stakes were incredibly high, and this culture of secrecy became ingrained in Murano's DNA. So, what are these legendary techniques that were so fiercely protected? Let's start with filigrana. Imagine delicate threads of white or colored glass embedded within clear glass, creating intricate, lace-like patterns. It's a technique that requires extraordinary precision and a deep understanding of how glass behaves under heat. Then there's millefiori, which literally means 1,000 flowers. Artisans create long rods of glass, called morin, each with a complex, flower-like pattern running through its core. These rods are then sliced like a loaf of bread, and the thin discs are fused together to create a vibrant, mosaic-like surface. Each flower you see is a cross-section of one of these painstakingly crafted rods. Another mesmerizing technique is sommerso, meaning submerged. This involves dipping a piece of colored glass into molten glass of another color, creating layers of transparent color that play with light. In incredible ways, it gives the final piece a sense of depth and fluidity, as if the colors are suspended in water. And we can't forget aventurina, where tiny metallic particles, usually copper, are suspended within the glass, creating a sparkling, glittering effect that looks like a starry night sky. The recipe for this was so secret that for centuries, many believed it was discovered by accident. Creating a single piece of Murano glass is like a carefully choreographed ballet. It's not the work of a lone artist, but a team, a piano. At the heart is the maestro, the master glassblower, who leads the process. He works with assistants who help gather the molten glass from the furnace, prepare the colors, and assist with the shaping. The furnace roars at over 1,400 degrees Celsius, and the team must work in perfect sync, communicating with gestures and brief commands. The glass is in a constant state of motion, being rolled, blown, stretched, and cut with incredible speed and confidence. There's a very short window of time before the glass cools and becomes unworkable. Even today, in the age of mass production, Murano artisans use the same basic tools their ancestors did centuries ago. The blowpipe, the pontile rod, and various pliers and shears called taglianti and borse. It's this reliance on ancient methods and human skill that makes each piece truly unique. No two hand-blown Murano creations are ever exactly alike. They carry the breath of the maker, the touch of their hands, and the soul of a centuries-old tradition. So, how can you tell if a piece is authentic Murano glass? It's a common question, as imitations are everywhere. First, look for imperfections. Since it's handmade, you might find tiny air bubbles or a slightly asymmetrical shape. These aren't flaws. They're signs of authenticity. Authentic pieces often feel heavier than you'd expect because of the mineral-rich sand and other elements used. You should also look for the pontile mark on the base, a rough spot where the piece was broken off the pontile rod after being finished. Many modern pieces will also have a signature from the maestro or the studio, or a sticker certifying their origin. The legacy of Murano isn't just preserved in museums. It's a living, breathing art form. Contemporary artists on the island are constantly pushing the boundaries, blending ancient techniques with modern aesthetics to create stunning sculptures and designs that feel both timeless and completely new. They are the guardians of the flame, ensuring that the secrets of Murano glass are not lost to history, but continue to evolve and inspire. The story of Murano glass is a testament to the enduring power of craftsmanship. It's a reminder that the most beautiful things in life are often made with patience, skill, and a touch of secrecy. The next time you see a piece of Murano glass, don't just see its color or shape. See the roaring furnaces, the synchronized dance of the glassmakers, and the 7 centuries of history captured within its fiery heart. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been to Murano or owned a piece of this incredible glass? Let us know. Have you ever seen a garden made entirely of glass? Or a chandelier that looks like a cascade of frozen fireworks? If so, you've likely witnessed the magical world of Dale Chihuly, an artist who completely revolutionized how we see glass. For centuries, glass was often considered a craft, something functional like a vase or a windowpane. But Chihuly saw something more. He saw a medium capable of expressing breathtaking beauty, vibrant color, and monumental scale. He dreamed of transforming glass from a simple material into a spectacular form of fine art, and in doing so, he sparked a global movement. Today, we're diving into the dazzling universe of Dale Chihuly, exploring how one man's vision reshaped the very definition of sculpture and turned blown glass into a celebrated art form. Before Chihuly, the world of glass art looked very different. The studio glass movement, which began in the early 1960s, was a crucial first step. It allowed artists to work with glass in their own small studios rather than large industrial factories. This was a game changer, giving individuals creative control. However, most studio glass artists were still working on a relatively small scale. They were artisans, highly skilled, but the perception of glass as a craft rather than fine art lingered. The pieces were beautiful, but they hadn't yet broken into the mainstream gallery and museum world alongside painting and traditional sculpture. The idea of a glass sculpture being the centerpiece of a major exhibition was still a radical concept. Then came Dale Chihuly, born in Tacoma, Washington. He was deeply influenced by the natural beauty of the Pacific Northwest, the sea, the forests, and the ever-changing light. After studying interior design and architecture, he was introduced to glassblowing and was instantly captivated. He saw its potential, its fluidity, its relationship with light. But Chihuly's approach was different from the very beginning. He wasn't content with just making a perfect vessel. He wanted to push the material to its absolute limits. He studied traditional glassmaking in Venice, Italy, on a Fulbright scholarship, where he saw the power of a team-based approach to glassblowing, something that would become a hallmark of his own practice. A pivotal moment, and a tragic one, occurred in 1976. A car accident left Chihuly blind in his left eye. A few years later, a body surfing accident dislocated his right shoulder, making it impossible for him to hold the glassblowing pipe himself. For many artists, this would have been the end of their career. For Chihuly, it was a new beginning. Unable to physically create the works himself, he became a director, a conductor of a symphony of glass. He used drawings and paintings to communicate his vision to his team of skilled glassblowers. This collaborative method, born from necessity, allowed him to think on a grander scale than ever before. He was no longer limited by what one pair of hands could do. He could orchestrate massive, complex installations that would have been impossible for a solo artist. This is where the magic truly began. Chihuly started creating his iconic series. There's the Baskets series, inspired by seeing Native American baskets that had slumped and lost their shape over time. His glass baskets aren't rigid. They're fluid, asymmetrical, and appear to collapse under their own weight, capturing a beautiful sense of imperfection. Then you have the sea forms, delicate, translucent pieces with fine, ribbed lines that evoke shells and marine life washed ashore. They seem to hold the light of the ocean within them, and of course are the chandeliers. These aren't your typical light fixtures. Chihuly's chandeliers are explosive, sprawling sculptures made of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of individual glass elements. They look like alien sea creatures or vibrant, exotic plants, cascading from the ceiling in a riot of color and form. What makes a Chihuly piece so captivating? It's his unparalleled use of color. He layers colors in a way that creates incredible depth and vibrancy. The glass isn't just one solid color. It's a tapestry of hues that shift and change depending on the light. He also embraces asymmetry and the natural, unpredictable behavior of hot glass. He lets gravity and centrifugal force play a role, resulting in organic, free-flowing shapes that feel alive. He famously said, "I want my work to appear like it came from nature, so that if you walked in the woods, you might find it." And that's exactly the feeling you get. His installations, like the glass house at the Chihuly Garden and Glass in Seattle, feel like you've stepped into a fantastical, otherworldly ecosystem. One of his most ambitious projects was Chihuly over Venice in 1996. He and his team created spectacular chandeliers that were hung over the canals and in the Piazzas of Venice, the historic heart of glassmaking. The project was a logistical marvel and a creative triumph. It brought his revolutionary style of glass art back to the city that had so inspired him, showcasing it on a global stage. This event cemented his status as a contemporary master and proved that glass could be used to create monumental public art that could transform an entire city. From Venice, his large-scale installations began to appear in major museums, botanical gardens, and public spaces all over the world, from the Victoria and Albert Museum in London to the deserts of Jerusalem. But Chihuly's legacy isn't just about his own art. It's also about fostering the next generation. In 1971, he co-founded the Pilchuck Glass School in the woods of Washington State. It started as a one-summer experiment and has since grown into the world's foremost center for glass art education. Artists from all over the globe come to Pilchuck to learn, experiment, and collaborate. By creating this hub for creativity and innovation, Chihuly ensured that the studio glass movement wouldn't just survive, but thrive. He built a community and an infrastructure that supports artists in pushing the boundaries of the medium, just as he did. The impact of Dale Chihuly is undeniable. He took a medium often relegated to the world of craft and elevated it to the highest echelons of the art world. He showed that glass could be monumental, expressive, and deeply emotional. His embrace of collaboration, his fearless use of color and form, and his dedication to art education have transformed the landscape of contemporary art. He challenged perceptions and opened up a world of possibilities, not just for glass artists, but for anyone who believes in the power of a bold, creative vision. The next time you see a piece of vibrant, sprawling glass art that seems to defy gravity and capture light itself, take a moment to think of the artist who dared to dream in glass. His work truly has to be seen to be believed, and I hope this inspires you to seek it out. Ever wonder what a skyscraper, your smartphone, and your own bones could possibly have in common? The answer is surprisingly simple, and it's something most of us see every day. Sand. But this isn't just any sand. We're talking about a resource so vital, it's growing. Scarcity is creating a hidden global crisis, and at the same time, a special kind of glass made from it is revolutionizing medicine. Stick with me as we uncover the incredible story of how the world is running out of sand, and how a medical marvel called bioglass is changing the future of healing. You might think sand is infinite. It's on beaches, in deserts, everywhere, right? Wrong. The sand used for construction, glassmaking, and electronics needs to be a specific type, mostly river and marine sand. Desert sand is too smooth and rounded by wind to be useful, and our global appetite for this specific sand is insatiable. We extract an estimated 50 billion tons of it every year. To put that in perspective, it's enough to build a wall 27 meters wide and 27 meters high around the entire planet. Every single year, this colossal demand is fueling a serious problem. Unsustainable and often illegal sand mining is destroying riverbeds, eroding coastlines, and devastating entire ecosystems. In some parts of the world, this has led to the disappearance of islands and the collapse of riverbanks, threatening communities and wildlife. The race for sand has become so intense that it's often controlled by criminal gangs, leading to violent conflicts. This isn't just an environmental issue, it's a humanitarian one. The consequences are starting to hit home. As high-quality natural sand becomes scarcer and more expensive, some builders are forced to use lower-grade alternatives. This can have disastrous results, leading to weaker concrete and potentially catastrophic construction failures. The very foundations of our cities are at risk because of this overlooked crisis. To combat these industries are turning to manufactured sand, or M-sand, which is created by crushing rocks. While it's a promising alternative, it comes with its own set of challenges, including high energy consumption and the need for massive amounts of water. Now, here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While the world grapples with a shortage of one of its most fundamental building blocks, scientists have been busy transforming it into one of the most advanced materials in medicine. Enter bioactive glass. This isn't the glass in your windows. It's a specially formulated substance, a powder made from silicon dioxide, the main component of sand, along with calcium, sodium, and phosphorus. It was first developed decades ago for bone repair, and what it does inside the human body is nothing short of amazing. When bioactive glass comes into contact with bodily fluids, like saliva or blood, it starts a remarkable chemical reaction. It releases iones, specifically calcium and phosphate ions. Why is this important? Because these are the very same building blocks your body uses to create bone. The glass essentially tells your body, hey, it's time to build new bone right here. It forms a gel layer on its surface that encourages bone cells to attach, grow, and multiply. Over time, the bioactive glass doesn't just sit there. It actually bonds directly with your bone, creating a seamless, strong, and natural connection. It becomes part of you. Think about the implications. Instead of using metal plates and screws that are foreign to the body, surgeons can use a material that helps the body heal itself. Bioactive glass can be used to fill voids in bone caused by trauma or surgery, encouraging the bone to regenerate and fill the gap completely. It is like providing the perfect scaffolding and all the necessary materials for your body's own construction crew to get to work. But its power doesn't stop at bones. Researchers discovered that bioactive glass also has incredible effects on soft tissue. Those same ions it releases have been shown to stimulate cells to produce collagen, the protein that gives our skin its structure and strength. This has opened up a whole new world of possibilities for wound healing. Imagine a wound dressing infused with bioactive glass. It doesn't just cover a cut, but actively accelerates the healing process, reduces scarring, and even has antibacterial properties. This technology is already being explored for treating chronic wounds like diabetic ulcers, which are notoriously difficult to heal. And if you've ever winced from the sharp pain of sensitive teeth, you'll be happy to hear bioactive glass is coming to the rescue there. 2. Many specialty toothpastes now include this material. When you brush, the tiny glass particles find the microscopic tubules in your dentin that lead to your tooth's nerve. They plug these holes, forming a protective layer that blocks the pain signals. It's not just masking the problem. It's physically rebuilding the damaged part of your tooth. It's a game changer in dentistry, moving from simple cleaning to active repair. So we have this incredible paradox. On one hand, our unsustainable consumption of natural sand is threatening our environment and infrastructure. On the a highly refined version of that same sand is unlocking a future where our bodies can heal faster and more effectively than ever before. Bioglass is being tested for everything from nerve regeneration to delivering drugs directly to cancer cells. It's a testament to human ingenuity turning a common mineral into a sophisticated healing tool. This dual story of sand serves as a powerful reminder. It highlights our urgent need for sustainable practices and responsible resource management. We can't continue to take from the earth without thinking of the consequences. At the same time, it shows the boundless potential of science to innovate and solve some of our most complex challenges. The future of construction may depend on finding alternatives to natural sand, while the future of medicine is being built with it. From riverbeds to operating rooms, the humble grain of sand holds a story of crises and creation, scarcity and hope. It forces us to look closer at the world around us and appreciate the hidden connections that shape our lives. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the science and stories that are shaping our world. See you next time.